Have you noticed something strange lately? Your salary number might be going up, but your lifestyle feels like it's shrinking. Your bank balance looks fine, yet groceries, rent, and fuel all feel heavier, more expensive. That isn't just inflation. That is currency erosion. And it doesn't arrive with big headlines. It arrives silently, one trade agreement at a time. Tonight, I want to show you a shift happening right beneath the surface of global finance. A system is being quietly tested by the world's fastest-growing economies, one that doesn't rely on the US dollar to move value. This isn't about a new world currency or some dramatic revolution, it's just a different rail. And once enough countries start using it, the old rail stops being essential. This story isn't really about BRICS. It is about what happens to your money when the world stops needing the same currency it once did. For more than a decade, the BRICS nations, Brazil, Russia, India, China, and South Africa, have talked about reducing their dependence on the US dollar. But in 2025, something changed. It wasn't a big declaration or a summit announcement, it was an experiment. A research-backed prototype settlement unit, sometimes called the Unit, was quietly introduced through academic and financial circles connected to BRICS institutions. Its purpose was simple. Can countries move value between each other without routing payments through the dollar system? The goal isn't to replace the dollar, just to avoid it. This prototype combines two powerful ideas. Part of its value is anchored to physical gold, and the other part is tied to a basket of BRICS currencies. That mix is crucial because gold cannot be frozen by sanctions, and a basket of currencies reduces dependence on any single nation's economy. Now, this is not yet official policy. It's just a test rail. But every global monetary system in history started exactly like this, as a quiet experiment before it became permanent infrastructure. Here is the key insight that most people miss. Global trade doesn't move on trust, it moves on plumbing. The US dollar became dominant, not because it was perfect, but because it built the pipes, the SWIFT network, correspondent banking, and settlement systems. Now, BRICS institutions are testing a different set of pipes, and they're using blockchain not for hype, but to remove the middlemen. In this model, two countries trade, and the settlement happens digitally. No US banks are involved, there's no SWIFT routing, and no forced conversion into dollars. That doesn't kill the dollar, but it removes dependency, and dependency is the real source of power in finance. When nations discover they can move money without ever touching your currency, demand for it slowly migrates. Not dramatically, but gradually. And gradual shifts are the most dangerous, because no one reacts until it's too late. There won't be a single moment where the dollar dies. Instead, it will behave like something far more subtle, a currency that still exists but is needed slightly less each year. The warning signs are already visible. Central banks are increasing their gold exposure. Bilateral trade agreements are bypassing dollars. Treasury holdings are flattening globally, and more local currency settlement deals are being signed every quarter. This isn't rejection of the dollar, it is diversification away from dependency. And here's why that matters to you. The US and other dollar-based economies enjoy something called exorbitant privilege, the ability to import real goods in exchange for printed money. That privilege only exists as long as the world needs your currency. When it doesn't, even slowly, your cost of living rises, your savings buy less, and your financial future quietly becomes more fragile. This isn't a crash story. It's an erosion story. And erosion is invisible, right up until the ground under you starts giving way. There is a rule in finance that most people never hear. Central banks don't predict the future, they prepare for it. And right now, they are preparing in one very specific way. They are buying gold, relentlessly. Not ETFs, not paper contracts, they are buying physical metal. Over the last few years, official institutions have been adding gold to their vaults at the fastest pace in modern financial history. This isn't speculation. This is balance sheet behavior. Why would the world's most powerful financial institutions choose an asset that pays no interest, earns no yield, and just sits quietly in vaults? Because gold has one property no currency can ever replicate. It does not depend on anyone else. Promise. No central bank can print it. No sanction can freeze it. No foreign policy decision can invalidate it, and as new settlement rails quietly emerge, rails that don't rely on the dollar, gold becomes more than just a reserve. It becomes neutral collateral in a world that no longer fully trusts each other's currencies. This isn't gold nostalgia. This is gold remonetization. Most people think de-dollarization would look dramatic. Press conferences, breaking news banners, markets panicking. Instead, it looks like paperwork. Trade agreements, currency swap lines, and settlement contracts being rewritten quietly behind the scenes. Russia and China now settle most of their bilateral trade outside the dollar. India is increasingly using rupee-based structures for its energy imports. Brazil and China are invoicing agricultural shipments in their local currencies. There are no grand speeches, no ideology. It's just about efficiency. Each deal saves conversion fees, each deal avoids sanctions risk, and each deal slightly reduces the world's need for dollars. When enough countries do this, not in protest but for practical reasons, the system shifts without asking for permission. This is how empires fade, not by being overthrown, but by becoming irrelevant. In 2022, something happened that every finance ministry on earth noticed. Hundreds of billions of dollars in sovereign reserves held in Western currencies were frozen almost overnight. For the first time in history, major reserve assets were weaponized at such a massive scale. It was legal, it was justified, and it was unforgettable. Because from that moment on, every central bank asked the same silent question. If this can happen to them, what protects us? That single doubt is more powerful than any policy speech. It doesn't create rebellion, it creates redundancy. And redundancy is exactly what new settlement systems provide. Not a replacement, but a backup. And in financial history, backups always become alternatives, and alternatives always become competition. The shift didn't begin with BRICS. It began with a fear of dependency. And once that fear enters the system, it never leaves. Now, it's important to stay grounded. This transition is not automatic. BRICS is not a single country, it is a collection of very different interests. India is cautious about any system dominated by China. Brazil's policies change with its political cycles. South Africa plays a far smaller financial role. There is no shared fiscal authority, no unified regulatory framework, and no common banking backbone connecting these nations. The dollar still offers something no other system can fully replace: deep, reliable liquidity at a global scale. This unit remains a pilot project, small, experimental, and dependent on coordination that is very difficult to achieve. And Western institutions won't just step aside quietly. Tariffs, diplomatic pressure, and regulatory roadblocks are all already part of the response. So this is not a sudden overthrow. It is a long test of resilience, and not every test becomes a permanent system. So what should we realistically expect? Not a collapse, not a revolution, just acceleration. The year 2026 will likely be a year of signals, not final outcomes. You will not wake up to a dead dollar, but you may wake up to more news of gold purchases on central bank balance sheets, in more trade being settled quietly outside the dollar, more currency swap agreements between emerging nations, and more pressure on bond markets to fund growing deficits. Don't watch the headlines, watch the flows, because financial power shifts through data long before it reaches politics. Every monetary transition reshapes wealth without asking for permission. Those holding real assets, metals, commodities, productive land, tend to preserve their purchasing power. Those holding only cash balances tend to feel stable right up until they don't. Wage earners often experience the slowest damage. Their income rises last, long after prices have already moved up. This isn't about unfairness, it is the structure of the system. Money systems reward proximity to assets. Distance from assets is what creates vulnerability. This is not a call to abandon the dollar. It remains essential. But it is a call to stop thinking in a single currency frame of mind. Diversification is no longer just about returns. It's about resilience. Understanding where value is stored, how trust moves between different systems, and which assets do not depend on permission from others. That is how financial security will be measured in the decade ahead. It won't be about how much you earn. but about how much of your purchasing power you can keep. Thanks for watching. If you found this valuable, please like and subscribe for more insights.